what do you envision? I mean, are you someone who sets lofty goals? Do you set 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals? You would go with the flow guy. What's your approach to how you've cultivated all this, what others would see as like success in your life?
Yeah, I feel like this is a safe space to talk freely when lots of people, I don't know, you're the same. You're a dreamer as well. You say stuff and people look at you and go, "This guy's nuts," or "This guy's just what's he talking about?" Um, Back in, you remember, Kahal, right?
Yeah.
He's a mutual friend for reference. He's started working. I don't think this is a secret. He started working with a guy who's essentially a business coach, and he was telling me about this growth he's gone through with this guy. And I was like, do you know what I need? And it's not a, yeah, I need someone. I don't have a boss, right? I need someone. It's not even about holding accountable. It's like I need a bit of a change. This is a really important part of the story, actually, which is how we've even got to this music part. And anyway, started working with this guy, and I'd say some things to him which I would think were, for me, like a dream, and he'd go, "That's nothing." This guy's like almost talking my language a little bit. For example, he told me this guy wanted to work with him. He owned pharmacies in Middle East, and he was like, he's got 14 pharmacies, and he's like, "I'm not going to work with you unless you want to build 2,000." He's like a big guy, in terms of that. So when I started working with him, that kind of like opened up everything, to be honest. Let me give it a really cool anecdote. We were talking about Dana White, the UFC president. He went through that health journey, and the guy predicted his death. We were talking about that. Then we were talking about how cool that is that someone can predict your death, but at the same time, that's pretty dark, right? But Dana White changed his life because of this prediction method. So we were talking about this, and then he said to me, "How long do you want to live till?" And he was like, "Go on, tell me. How long would you like to live?" So I'm like trying to work it out, and I said 120. And he was like, "Why did you say 120? And I was like, "Well, I'm 34. I've just kind of gone past 30, which means I'm only a quarter of the way through. Obviously, 120 is still ridiculous." And he's like, "Why didn't you say 500? Obviously, I'm like a little bit taken back. And the point he was making was, I used, again, this is slightly different when we're talking about health, but I used what is average as an anchor. And his point was, don't use society's anchors to like stop your own thinking and dreaming. Don't let someone else decide what is your 120 or whatever." He's like, "Why not? Why can't you live to 500? Who knows what's going to happen in the next 20, 30 years? Like just," and that was like a big moment for me, kind of going, you can do anything. So to go back to your question about what I want to do and where I'm going to go, like the plan is to, no joke, I wrote a few days ago, I want to headline festivals in the next 5 years. And if it's not 5 years, it's 7 years. And if it's not 7, it's 9. I don't think there's many people will have approached it the way I have. Not that I'm doing anything special, but like I'm not coming from like a music background. I'm coming from like a business and professional kind of sport background. A lot of these people are like creatives, and and that's not throwing shade at all, but like I'm coming in kind of with like a structured approach, with like a plan with him, and there's like, almost KPIs, if you like. I don't think many people are attacking it in that manner. It's like, cool, you need to do this by this. Even, for example, he said to me, "You need to message 50 DJs this month." This was a few months ago, and I was like, oh my God. So I was like, cool. I messaged 50 DJs on Instagram, some of the biggest DJs in the world. 24 replied.
What was the question?
I had, oh, my phone's downstairs. I basically picked 5 questions and sent, depending on what the answers were and how much I learned as I went along, I'd send a different question to them. But it was, I'm fairly new in producing, so it was like, what kit would you start off with? Are there any courses? Are there any books? That was kind of like almost one question. What was something that held you back, that shouldn't have held you back at the time? And none of the answers are any different to what you'd expect. It's like, it's consistency, effort, output. And you know what? Some of them were like, "Bro, you can do it. Like, just go and do it." And I'm getting these DJs who are some of the biggest in the world going, "You can go and do it, lad." Again, that's encouraging and that's fuel on the fire. But messaging the 50 DJs is kind of like a KPI driven thing. And then he was like, again, how many DJs are using LinkedIn? He was like, "Pick your 10 favorite record labels." So I did. And he was like, "Cool, now go on LinkedIn and search for these record labels." And then I added the people from Defected and Nervous. These are all big record labels. Started messaging people. I got a lot less response on LinkedIn, almost no response. But I think that's because it's more formal, right? Instagram, someone could just message back with a text, or it looks like a short text. But that's the kind of approach we're taking. It just went through I don't even want to call it a rebranding. We'll call it a branding exercise. two amazing girls I'm working with, and they've kind of brought female energy to the party, if you like. Content and whatever is like one thing, but like it's got to look a certain way. You've got to have colors, and you've got to have font, and it can't just be something you've made online, and everything needs to be as it should be, right? If I want to be a brand, everything needs to look consistent and be part of you. So I went through like really in-depth conversations about the darkest moments of my life and like what represents me, and they put together this document, and then from there we've now got this branding kit, and my website will be ready next week, I think. So yeah, the plan is to go nowhere but the top, which is why I'm like trying to get rid of things and yeah, hone in on it and make it come true now.
So it's not because you're doing I think there's a very important part to this puzzle that you're sharing, which is it's not just have like big lofty goals and dreams. There's a method to this as well. So it's like you're stating the lofty crazy goal, the lofty crazy dream, but then there is a step-by-step process that you are putting in. And you're almost treating your dream, like you said, like it's a job. You've got KPIs you've got to hit, and then you're moving the goalpost is just slowly moving forward.
Yeah, I guess that's a representation of how much influence he's had on me. That wasn't me in November. You know, I didn't have these things, and we've already, again, even this week, where I've put out significantly more content right now with an angle that I don't think anyone's ever done before with this tour I'm doing and whatever. The you know, my and it's not about just followers, but like my views and shares and all these things are going way more exponential than ever before. But that was because of a strategy after like taking some time to think about what content and blah blah blah. Whereas before November it wasn't. He knows not a lot about music and social media and things like that. However, he understands data, and he's like, how many people have you reached this week? How many times have you posted? Who can you connect with that you don't know about right now? He went to Harvard. He's got a huge network. He put out a thing last week about, he wants me, I've probably sharing too much now, but whatever, we're in there. He wants me to fundraise. I don't want to fundraise. I feel like I don't need to fundraise. Yes, you can raise money and build a team and move faster, but I'm like, I don't need to give away equity to, you know, I couldn't go and borrow money or use my own money or strap, you know, like I'm happy to go to zero if I tried, rather than just go and take money off someone else just because they're an investor. Anyway, so he reached out to his network, and I've got 4 calls next week with people who work in the music industry on how these people build their revenue streams. Where do they set up their company? Like, artists are global these days. Like, I live in Hong Kong, but is it the smartest place to actually set up, you know, my DJ business or whatever it's going to be? So he's brought in the structure. That isn't me, to be honest.
But you got to execute still.
No, absolutely. And we have a call every Monday. And this week, you know, he was like, I don't feel like you came very prepared today. And I was like, maybe not, because of, but I did. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, this is already a commitment. You don't drop a commitment to add a new one in. He's like, if you're doing the DJ tour or wherever, he's like, this is on top of your commitment. So he kind of gave me a bit of a hiding on Monday. But again, that's why I'm like paying him, and that's why he's good.